There's only one thing I can promise you. Any wage requested from life will be paid. Welcome to the first of my mindset series of videos. One of my friends said that I should post these on YouTube as well for a while now. I've been putting these on Instagram. I spent a lot of time actually talking about and really thinking about mindset, cultivating a mindset that is conducive or useful for the things that I want to achieve in my own life, right? So building wealth for myself, financial freedom, not having to, work a day job from day to day, etc., right? So I'm just still on this journey. By no means am I like driving around on yachts or things like that, but I have achieved, I'd say, a decent level of success. I'm 30 years old. I have a couple $100,000 in my stock portfolio. I own real estate. I have a real estate investment company that I run as my side hustle right now. Day job is in corporate sales, doing all that stuff. So my hands are dipped in all types of things. And really, one of the things that has gotten me to where I am now, and I know that it's going to continue to be useful, is continuing to work on the way that I think about my reality, my perception, and understanding myself so that I can create a state of being that is useful, not just for my own mental health, but getting to where I want to go. All of these ideas are a work in progress, so as I shoot these, you'll see me continue to refine them and update them based off of new things that I read, learn about, feel, experience, etc. But I still do think they are useful, and I do want to share them with you as they are now. And this is also serves for me kind of as a vlog or a journal, a visual journal to see where I was at this moment in time. So today's video, it is currently March 14th. I'm 30 years old, and we're going to talk about getting paid based off of what you actually believe you deserve to get paid. Again, any wage requested from life will be paid. Some housekeeping though. This is Forrest the Investor. Free money is cool, so if you want some free stocks, check the links down in my description. BUY is just giving these out, folks, so don't miss out on those when you sign up. You'll get 2 free stocks. I'll get 1. Highly appreciate it. I've gotten a few so far, but literally you can't beat free money. There's no gimmick there. Check it out. I have a Patreon and other stuff too. And now let's jump into this video. So let's break down this idea of life paying you basically whatever you honestly believe you deserve to be paid. And the first question of pushback I get on this is, Forrest, people say, Forrest, it's not that easy. The world doesn't really work that way. So I really want to start with one, how does the world actually work? I have a ton of experience, either myself or pushing others around me, convincing people to go outside of their comfort zone, and it could be as simple as just asking to be paid more, right? We often have this idea when we go through life that the systems that are in place are well thought out and well constructed. And that's just not true. Every single thing that exists in the world, in our reality, was put there by some other person. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, who was that person, and why should I listen to them? Why should I believe that this system as it is today should completely define the set of results for my life, right? We all have to live in this society and play this game that is, capitalism, at least in the United States where I live. That doesn't mean that just because the rules that are out there that most people follow that give you some defined set of results necessarily mean that you have to live completely within those constraints. So it really is as simple, and I've pushed multiple of my friends to do this, of just whenever you're in a simple job negotiation, asking for more money. A lot of people are really uncomfortable with this, but it's not because really that uncomfortability comes from fear. It comes from insecurity, not believing in yourself. These are all just negative emotions. I've never heard a single positive reason for why you shouldn't ask for more money. There isn't one. They're all fear-based, and you really just have to get away from making decisions based out of fear. Unless you're being chased by a lion and you're wondering if you should run faster or not, in which the answer is yes. There's in most cases in navigating your life where making fear-based decisions is the right way to move. So the second point in this video is going to be, our belief systems make or break us. If you ever look at highly successful people, I certainly know in the people that I've spoken to in my own life, most highly successful people have almost a religiosity or this rigorous fervor to the way that they structure their lives. They're not normal, right? You're not going to find people unless they are, made their millions of dollars in like, entertainment or some outsized, return on effort due to like fame. But most people who either build a business or had to earn their wealth, right? They have very structured lives, right? Their mental acumen, the way that they perceive reality, you notice that it's really hard to upset these people. They tend to be very consistent, and that's how I try to be, right? And all that comes down to what you believe. So we're gonna talk about both of those things. I touched on number one a little bit, but let's dig a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna go back to my first experience really thinking about wages and where I wanted to be in this system, in this economic system. So my first job out of college, I was working. I was an intern there first, so then I got a job at a retail brokerage out in the Midwest, and I was making $55,000 per year. I was pretty happy with myself. I showed up every day to work in a suit, tie, looked super fresh. I got a nice car, had a nice little BMW on my $55,000 a year salary. Granted, the cost of living out in the Midwest is pretty cheap, but still I was trying to maximize my life in this situation, and very quickly I discovered that I was not happy having these things, and that making $55,000 a year was really not where I wanted to be in my life. And so I started to push the limits. I started navigating that space and asking, my managers. One of the first conversations I had with my manager was, hey, what does it look like for me to move up in this company, and knowing that I want to make 6 figures per year. And basically the target that they put in front of me was, they're saying, Forrest, if you really work hard consistently over the next few years, you could be making like $100,000 per year in like 6 or 7 years. Now at the time, I'm like 23 years old. That was 7 years ago, and I was like, there's no way that it should take me that long to make that amount of money here, when I know that there are people right out of college right now in other parts of the country making 6 figures right now. And that comes down to, immediately I had to face my internal beliefs about myself, right? So what a lot of people do is, because of their current situation, and they believe that they deserve their current situation, the math kind of checks out. Well, if those other people are making more than me, it's probably because they're better than me, right? But that's not how I felt about myself. So immediately I had the opportunity to, from there, being faced with the knowledge that it would take me that amount of time, I could either wait or I could simply ask for more money. So then what I did is I did a bunch of research, and I went out and I said, hey, people who are, this good or are able to, execute this much can make this amount of money. I got other job offers, and I was able to use that to increase my pay from, my initial $55,000 per year up to like the $70,000 per year range. And I was a little bit satiated with that at the time. And I did this a number of times, and one of the things that I proved to myself through, also working hard, but also moving from company to company, is that one of the easiest ways to get a pay increase is by moving from company to company, and two, if you are good at your job, right, if you're not mediocre, then the return on investment for the employer to you, the difference of your employer paying you $70,000 per year or $80,000 per year is nothing, right? They're going to try and pay you as little as possible, but if you're really, really good, then it honestly isn't that hard to get paid more money. And employers, especially if you are a necessary asset to the company, will pay you easily. You can easily get paid in the top, percentile of whatever your job is. So the story is there. The way that the world works is, you literally are going to get paid whatever you're willing to fight for. And companies know that most people will not negotiate. 99% of people won't negotiate. So just by negotiating, you're automatically setting yourself up to be an outlier in terms of compensation. And that applies really to everywhere in life. Most people by definition are mediocre. And so if you do things that other people don't do, you already are an outlier. And that is the way that the world works. So anytime you are faced with doubt, Anytime you're curious of whether or not something is going to work, you have to realize, and when you think about, well, most people do this, do you want to be like most people? Are most people living a life that you want to live? Are most people an example that you want to follow? Is most people really the definition, right? Is that the barrier, the limits, the guardrail that you want to have for yourself in your own life? Is most people? Because for me, it certainly isn't. I'm actually annoyed with most people. Most people disappoint me, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that most people, the example by which I try to live my life, I do try to help most people, and I think that most people can improve their lives, but not everybody's going to want to do that. Not everybody is going to try to, and so I certainly don't adhere to, listen to advice from most people, or nor concern myself with the things that most people are doing. Instead, I'm looking, following the example of people that I respect, people whose life, like if I traded my position with theirs, would I want to live their life? If somebody is living a life and they're trying to tell me how I should live mine, and if we traded places, I'd be like, yuck. I might nod my head, yeah, I'm like, hey, that's an interesting idea, but honestly, your opinion does not matter to me. And I think that that is the approach that we all should take in our life, right? If you're not willing to trade places with somebody, don't take life advice from them. It just doesn't make sense. So let's move into the second part, belief systems, right? What we believe determines our reality, and we can see that in the example that I just talked about, but also everywhere else in life. So if we take a step back and just analyze ourselves, like everything in our life, our successes, right? The amount of money that we make, the house that we live in, the people that we know, how we feel about ourselves when we wake up, how we feel about ourselves when we go to sleep, whether we're in shape or not. All of the good things, right, are based off of what we believe. Same with all of the bad things, our insecurities, our doubts, the people that we don't know that we wish that we did, the things that we haven't done because we were too afraid to do, are all rooted in what we believe about ourselves. So how do we actually change what we believe about ourselves then? There's tons of evidence. I'm not going to go into it. We all know that we're products of our environment. That's just a fact, right? So if you grow up in a shitty situation, then you might have a shitty outlook on reality. Not everybody will, but in general, that is true, right? If you've only ever seen things being burned down, then you might think that things just constantly get burned down, and you might be hesitant to build anything because you're in an environment where things get burned down. The thing about our environment, though, is that our environment does not have any agency. Our environment simply is a byproduct of the actions that people are doing in that environment. And so if we change our environment, we can change our reality, we can change our perspective, and it becomes this cycle. So step one of changing our environment is the concept of blame, accountability, responsibility, whatever you want to call it, right? My personal belief, or the way that I approach life, is that everything is my fault. I really try to own all of my own outcomes. Now, this is controversial with a lot of people. A lot of people who have a lot of things to be mad about and really hate this concept. They think it's just like the old pull yourself up by your bootstraps thought process. And quite frankly, it kind of is, but I do, again, accept the fact, and which is why I started with environment. I completely accept the fact and understand that our environment can either set us up for a success, it can hold us back, it can make our lives harder, right? The concept of everything being your fault really has to do with the second part of that conversation, which is, so what, right? Like, the world does not give a fuck about you, and if you sit here and spend 10 minutes explaining to me, as people do, right, as I'm helping them with finances or whatever, your personal history about, I didn't have this or I didn't do that, trust me, I get it. These are real world problems, and one of the ways that we can solve these problems in the world is by having personal resources that we can deploy into the world. And the only way that we can amass personal resources to deploy into the world to fix these problems is if we're worth anything ourselves, right? Imagine, if you will, and the analogy that I think about it is like you're a villager in a village, and every once in a while, the wolves come at night and they kill the sheep, right? And this villager is complaining constantly about the wolves at night coming and killing the sheep, and it's like, okay, which one of us is going to go and fight the wolves? I guarantee you that most of the villagers aren't going to do anything about it, but they will come into the middle of the town square and complain about the wolves. And there's going to be very few villagers that are actually willing to step up and fight the wolves. And that's literally the world that we live in. Everybody is the villager that comes to the town square and has something to say about the wolves. And there are a few people who probably aren't perfect, but who are actually going out and fighting the wolves. And you need to decide if you are going to be the villager who waits on somebody else to go and fix this problem, or if you're going to go fix the problem yourself, or if you're going to not let the problem define your reality. Either way. That's a totally random example, but I think you get the point. So ultimately, we are in control. Your reality, your life might be harder than mine. Mine certainly is harder than other people's. I've spent a lot of time pissed off, mad at, having to work harder than other people. And that's totally valid. But that's also just the way that it is. You're going to be much happier when you can look at your life and think about, okay, I want to be here in my life. And the question I have to you is, despite all of the environmental things that have happened to you, how many days in the past week, right? If you look over the past 5 days, if you look over the past month, did you spend trying to improve your life? For most people, the answer is none, right? If you've spent no time actually thinking about how to improve your situation and actually acting on that, then yeah, you're going to be where you are, and you deserve to be where you are. You just do. It doesn't matter how you got there. If you're not doing anything to change it, then that's on you, okay? And I don't mean to inject pessimism into this video. I just think that, we need a healthy mix of personal accountability as well as, societal accountability. And again, my personal belief, you might believe differently, is that the best way that I can improve society, whether it's for people that look like me with brown skin, other people who necessarily aren't a part of my demographic but have their own struggle, if I become passionate about their cause, is by having personal resources to deploy. A lot of the reason why I'm doing a lot of the things that I do is because I want to be able to help people. I'm in a place now where I personally can help people, right, if they're in a tough situation. And I literally have to put my money where my mouth is. There's so many people are, again, very judgmental, but very few people actually put their money where their mouth is. Very few people actually go out and try to make a difference. There's a big difference between being upset and doing something that actually makes a positive change. And if you can just help one person in a positive way, then you're making a huge outsized impact on the world. But again, you have to have something to give. If you don't have anything to give, it's going to be really hard to make that difference. One of the other ways that we can change our belief system is by changing the people that we surround ourselves with. This is not a new idea, but again, if we think about our environment, one of the primary things that exist in our environment are people, right? So if you grow up around people who are negative, if you grow around people who are always victimized or looking to be a victim, if every single word out of their mouth starts with, well, they did this, or they won't let me, or things like that, then you're going to adopt that mindset for yourself. You want to be around people who are thinking about ways to solve problems, who are looking to improve their lives, who are looking to make an outsized impact, who have a positive mindset, who are looking to spend their time, working on their mindset. And almost by default, like, it's really hard. Imagine, if you will, if you're surrounded by 9 other people who wake up, and go running every day and spend an hour, meditating and doing all this other stuff. Even if you don't want to do it, you're going to be compelled to do these things because that is your environment. Same thing with people who, if they don't do anything, if they just sit around and they're just, watching TV every day, don't care about their diet, maybe they're doing a ton of drugs, right? You might not even be that into drugs, and I don't have anything against, people doing whatever they want to do, but you're going to spend a large part of your life just doing these recreational things because that's what your environment does. So, not saying that one group is better than the other, but if your goals are to be in a group that can have an outsized impact, then you're going to have to do those things, right? And surround yourselves with those people. And it honestly just makes it a lot easier. It makes it so much easier. One of the actual negatives of being around people that don't understand this mindset is people are always recruiting people to their side. I will say one of the big negatives of once you start to go down this journey is that success and confidence is like sunlight, right? And imagine, if you will, if you're shining a light into somebody's eyes who, isn't ready. They don't have shades on, right? They just woke up. Like, confidence and success is like being this light. And a lot of people don't want the light shined on them. And so by being accountable, you force other people to look in the mirror and start to feel intimidated, or they don't want to be held accountable, and your mere existence makes them feel this way. And so they're going to start pushing negativity onto you, asking why you're doing things. Why do you always have to be like doing this or saying that, even though you're just living your life? And that is just due to, again, insecurity, etc., and them just not being in that place in the journey. And that might be something you feel now. You may remember a time, I know I did before I went on this journey, where you're around somebody and you're just like, damn, why is Jeremy always talking about, like, you gotta do this and do that and do that? And it's like, really, I realized at the time that, like, I felt bad about myself because I actually wanted to do those things, but just by being around that person, I felt like I was on blast, right? Like, I was like, yo, why are you attacking me? But I'm not being attacked. I'm actually just insecure and immature. So that's going to happen. It's going to be your friends. It's going to be your family, your relationships, like all of the above. If you're in different parts of your journey, you're going to get this pushback. So it's just something to think about. But we all have one life, and we got to do what we got to do. The other side of that, though, is, and I've also seen this, is that when you go down a journey, you change those other people's environments. And so instead of trying to explain yourself by being an example and creating this positive light, this energy, some of those people will be pushed away, but some of those will actually come along for the journey. They will see that positivity, and they'll start to, because you've changed their environment, you become a positive force in their circle, and now you're going to be able to find and create just by being a good example. So if you're curious around how to convince people or change other people that you know, focus on yourself, just literally 100% on yourself, and people who like that will come along for the ride. Let's talk about two things so far, which is, how does the world work? Belief systems. One of the simplest ways to change your belief systems is by changing your environment, changing the people you're around, reading. A lot of these concepts are from the book, The One Thing. There's also Atomic Habits. There's tons of reading that you can do, but in general, just evaluate yourself. Look back. One of the simplest ways, and I might actually formulate this into some type of concept at some point, but I like to think of it of looking at the past week. How much of the past week, because that's very recent, have you spent working on getting towards your long-term goals? The things that keep you up at night when you're up and it's 1 a.m. and you're disgusted with yourself, and you're like, I should have did this or that or that and that. Did you actually go and tackle those things the next day? Did you start working on them? Did you create a fitness plan? Did you sign up for that music lesson? Did you, whatever that thing is, if you haven't done it over the past week, then it makes sense. Where you are makes complete sense. And so we are the average of what we do. We are the average of our environment. We are what we believe we deserve to be. And so if you change your beliefs, if you change your environment, and if you change what you do every day, it's literally impossible for you not to get to where you want to go, or closer to where you want to go. This brings me into my last and final point. This is all a journey. It's all incremental change. I am not perfect. So if you look at this video and you're thinking, Forrest, I know you, or I don't know you, but I doubt you're perfect, or I saw you do this, and I'm just like, my answer to all that is like, yep, probably. But I think what is a matter of a fact is, and I hope that everybody can see it, whether you know me or not, is I have achieved some level of personal success. I do spend a lot of my own time helping people. I'm very passionate about helping people. It's one of the things that I live for. Honestly, I love exciting people. I love holding people accountable and helping them achieve their own goals, which then excites them, even though that's a little bit strenuous. That's what I'm about. But I'm also super chill, make mistakes, yada yada yada. So that is the first one of this mindset video. Not perfect, but we're gonna get it out there because I've had this script written for a few days now, and I just spend a lot of time talking to the camera. If this is your first time here, please, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button, share it with some of your friends, anybody who you think could, use this message. I greatly appreciate you. Let me know what other topics you'd like me to talk about, or if you have questions, leave those down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And of course, hit that like button. Help me out with the algorithm. Get me to the front page of YouTube. Your brother needs it. But until next time, my name is Forrest. I invest in stuff, the stock market, mind, body, everything. I think you should too. And until the next video, peace.